Hey guys, Rexasaur here, and welcome back to the Red Emperor. Firstly, I'd like to apologise for the fact that this episode is 1 week late. I was quite ill, but when we left off, we got to a point where we could create the Kingdom of Lithuania. We in fact have more provinces than necessary, we're just lacking money right now. But the first thing I'm going to do is look at my neighbour of Krivia, and I'm really tempted on going to subjugate it because I can. So after quite a bit of debate, I decide, fuck it, why not? So we're going straight for a subjugation of our neighbour in Krivia. So we unite all the armies. I have a random army up the top, which is going to have to go all the way around. But after a while, we also get a nice little event saying that our son is going to get deceitful. We decide to go for honest, because deceitful is pretty shit, and he manages to get the honest trait, which is great. Anyway, so we go on, do our battle, and go straight for Minsk, sorting out the commanders, and we fight this battle, which seems to be going pretty well, not too shabby, winning the battle. So we win the battle, we imprison one of the dudes there. We've actually got ourselves a 47% victory score, which is pretty cool. And we're just going to carry on running around, chasing down the army, trying to get ourselves to 100%. One of the things that I realise at this point is that waging war is actually losing us money. We're not making enough money. Also, just looking around the map, just to see what's going on, we can see the West Francia is part of the Kingdom of Carloman. I'm actually going to give a little pass around the whole of the world, just to see what's going on. Rus has not been formed yet, which is kind of surprising. The Abbasid Kingdom has a massive revolt going on. The whole of Egypt is sort of revolted against him, which is kind of what you're used to seeing in a decadence revolt, really. But so the rest of the world seems to be doing fine. There are little problems. We win our war, however, which expands the power of Lithuania even more. However, it does kind of pose a big problem because I still haven't formed the kingdom, which means if I happen to die, it's just going to get all over the place, which is fantastic and something that I kind of need to avoid. But we keep losing money. However, we do have quite a bit of money right now. Right now, I'm trying to revoke one of the provinces of Minsk, one of the guy just taken, and he just chooses, yeah, sure, you can have it. But that still poses a big problem for our High Chief, who still doesn't have enough money to form the kingdom. I cannot stand this. I have all the provinces, and yet I do not have the money to lawfully enact my kingdom, my birthright. I do not wish to burden the people with the cost. I refuse to raise the taxes. I refuse to enforce such radical measures just for the cost of a crown. But this waiting, it's like an itch. A good war will take my mind off this. So, High Chief Cyrillus has decided that a war will probably be good for the country, despite the fact that going to war loses him money, which he needs to form the kingdom. So, after a bit of looking around, I decide maybe going for the county of Pskov would be a good thing, because Ilmen seems to be at war. It's got a kind of rebel problem. One of the things that happens, though, which is a bit strange, but I guess it's, you know, a lot of people have had the same idea, is that Estonia has also joined the war. Also, my first son, Zivimbundas, has become of age, so I marry him off to a lovely wife before going off to war, which is pretty cool. But yeah, as I was saying, Estonia decides to join the war on their, like, they've got their own war. They're going for a full subjugation, whilst I'm only going for Pskov, but that sort of lengthens the war massively. Also, there's some factions inside the country because of the new part that I've taken from Krivia. So I just send my spy master there to sort of pacify them for the time being. So we start our war. As you can see, Estonia has started joining in as well, taking their own provinces, but they're kind of getting away from me as well. I'm just looking at all the wars that are happening. But yeah, it's kind of strange, kind of annoying, because it basically lengthens the war massively, because if Estonia take provinces, I can't take those, they can't take mine, and it just means we're going to be at war for much longer than intended, which can last to a lot of annoying stuff. And also I think another province is attacking them as well. It's just kind of annoying. Also we get the ill trait, which is horrendous because we're quite odd, so we might actually die, which could be the worst. We try and catch these guys off, and believe it or not, we actually do die. To all those who are gathered here, word has reached the palace this morning of the death of High Chief Cyrillus Palemonatis on the field of battle at age 54, slain during the war for Pskov at the hands of the Ilmeni savages. As is customary in the laws of this land, all the titles will be divided equally to his sons, with the High Chiefdom of Lithuania being passed down to his firstborn, Zvimbundas Palemonatis. May the gods look favourably towards you. So, our first decease of the, I was about to say Zvimbundas dynasty, but it's the Palemonatis dynasty. And as you can see, Lithuania has sort of been divided really badly against our favour. Poor Zvimbundas is having not only to deal with the internal strife of his newly divided kingdom, which isn't even a kingdom yet, we can't even create it, but he's also going to have to finish off the war. I decided to go for a carousing focus because it boosts up your diplomacy, which is really useful, and it also allows your vassals, well, you do a carouse and it allows you to your vassals to really start to like you, which could become really useful later on. But as I was saying, Zvimbundas is going to have to finish the war that his father started and decided to die in, which is very helpful. But it's going to be a very hard war to win because Estonia is part of it. As you can see, Ilmen is actually losing terrain and ground and general holdings to several wars because everyone's decided to pick and mix, really. My wife is pregnant, which is fantastic. It means the succession is going to be secure. In fact, it's more than helpful that it happens really early on because Cyrillus dying was a real bitch. So later on we managed to basically get most of it. Our firstborn child is male. We are going to name him after our father. This will be Cyrillus the Younger. But as you can see, Ilmen is kind of split in two, and there we go. Estonia has just won its part of the battle, which means we are now at war with Estonia, not Ilmen. But we're still trying to take this one tiny little county of Pskov, which is such a small thing. Like, when Zvimbundas is probably cursing the name of his father. Our sister Rose comes of age, so we're just going to marry off to one of the kings, or future kings of a nearby country, and they accept, which is great because that means more allies in the future. But we're going to try and succeed in this war. We're not doing too badly. We're probably going to win this, and in fact we win it straight away, which frees up Zvimbundas to sort out the internal affairs of the country instead of the shitty external wars, which are completely unnecessary. As you can see, Lithuania is split down the middle, kind of like the middle part is still part of the High Chiefdom of Lithuania, but it isn't part, you know, the sides are missing, can't really create a lot of stuff. And Zvimbundas has a lot of factions, which are kind of problematic. This one is just lowering tribals, and he decides to accept it. But it can lead to problems in the future.
Hail, fellow lords of Lithuania! As you all know, the High Chief is quite the pushover, and threatening him to revolt if he didn't drop the regulations on our power was just the beginning. I implore you all to consider my next offer. We join forces to regain our old independence. No more liege lords, no more taxes, just us, our lands, our laws.
So, as you can imagine, the loss of tribal was already quite a heavy blow for Zvimbundas, but now an independence faction just arises, and Zvimbundas doesn't have the power really to get rid of it. Too many people have decided to go against him, so he just decides it's not worth it. Lithuania's already a faction. He's going to have to wage war to pull it all back. So he decides to just kind of allow them. All of them happen to be in the old faction of, or area of Prussia. So he decides, it's just a small loss, including Plock, but Plock was never part of Lithuania. Zvimbundas decides we have to focus on regaining Lithuania. He's going to try and get his father's sort of dream alive, and to do that he's going to have to make some small sacrifices. But the first thing he's going to do is get Marienburg back. It's a nice province to have on the coast. It allows him to do some trading eventually, and it's a very weak country. Also, because those factions are now independent, they're not allied with each other, which means that they don't have a lot of power, so attacking them individually is actually easier than going for a full-out war. Also, a wound has healed to a scar, which is great. But we win that war very simply, very easily, regaining Marienburg, regaining a little foothold in that area. And now we're going to go and slowly sort of increase the power. Most of the things we're going to war with now are our brothers. They're people who are our allies, and it means that they're allied with each other as well, which means there's going to be quite a bit of brotherly battles and stuff, which could be a big problem. But Lithuania is still the strongest of those nations. We've been strong since the very beginning. It's just that division has caused kind of rifts between us, which is a shame, I guess, when you see brothers fighting brother. But Zvimbundas believes that his father, as firstborn, he can keep the father's dream alive, keep Cyrilus's dream alive, which is exactly what he wants to do. Also sisters of legal age. The Avars fall. The Avars, who live in Hungary, are now part of Bulgaria. Bulgaria has actually taken them over, which is a very big neighbour, which isn't too much of a problem right now, but in the future episodes will most likely be either a target or something we're going to have to defend against. So we defeat our brother, we take over Grodno, who is still our sort of vassal, instead of just taking over the country's straight, but that's not too much of a problem. So we're going to go straight for our brother, who owns all of Karivia, because he's the weakest. He joined the war to save Grodno, but he didn't really do much work there. However, we do get defeated in this battle, which is, as soon as we do though, we get a nice little event thing that pops up, saying that we can raise tribal levies, which is exactly what we're going to do, because that's 2,500 men. We're not going to make a lot of money. Our money is basically not a focus right now. Most of the focus is going to go on regaining all of Lithuania. So with our extra men now, we are vastly outnumbering the enemy, and that means that we can definitely win this war, even though we did lose quite an important battle early on. And there we go, we take over all of Karivia, and that means that we get the whole of the duchy back. So get rid of all those men. Our money is pretty low, but we are gaining a tiny bit. We have Lithuania. We still can't create it though, because we don't have the money, but I think we can create it because we have enough general areas. My son is also ready to be educated. I'm going to nominate him to be my heir, because I forgot to do that. It seems to be a thing that I keep forgetting to do, but oh well. So yeah, so that's pretty much all that's going right now. We are actually going to do a carousing round, so we're just going to get all of our vassals, invite them to carousing, see what's going on, try and get them all to like me a bit more, because I'm going to be changing the focus as soon as I do this round of carousing. Carousing is a really, really nice focus, and I do like all the focuses. Generally it leads to being able to really narrate through players and roleplay with them, because right now you can think Zvimbundas is trying to get all the vassals to like him. He is not his father, he's not a warmonger. He's only doing this because he wants to unite the kingdom of Lithuania as his father had dreamed, and carousing is really a good place to do that, holding a banquet, holding a feast. However, only like 2 people show up, which is uncool, but one of those people who show up happened to become his friend, which is great. So he's now going to change his focus onto business. He wants to make a lot of money, he wants to make a lot of money quickly, so that he can actually form the kingdom and not make the same problem or mistake that his father makes. He's also going to do a lot of improving the infrastructure of his counties, his personal counties. He's going to make a lot of market villages to improve the taxes that he gains. It's going to cost him some money, We're actually going to lose quite a bit of money, but hey. And then we get this lovely event. I love this event. Basically, we're going to choose whether to mint more coins, which is basically loses us 100 gold but gains us prestige, or we can debase the value to give us 100 gold and 100 prestige, but it leads to people potentially finding out, and if people find out, they lose quite a bit. Here we get an amazing event, which is probably one of my favourite business events. Our steward is going to start an expedition and invites us to an expedition to a foreign land. This foreign land will happen to be Cornwall, which is fantastic. Here we get a random Venice because that's the original idea, but we can't go that far, so we go to Cornwall instead. So we're going to prepare on this expedition. We're going to spend quite a bit of money, but we got loads of money from the general event to get those debasing of the coins. So we go straight to Cornwall, and we get a nice amount of events through that. The first event is what we're going to give as a gift, so we decided to give the mightiest gift. It's always good to be as friendly as possible with the expedition, because you get so much money and so much buffs through that. This event is kind of it always happens, and it's great to be able to get the choice of, because we got such a high learning, we can just avoid this event entirely, so no one gets offended, which is great. This one we get some heretics who come along with us, or try and convert the populace of Cornwall, so we decide to stop them. Don't want to annoy them. And then there we go, we just say that we sign an agreement with the Cornish, which is fantastic. And then look how much stuff we get, so much green numbers, it's so good. And there they go, nice ship they have. What an intriguing few weeks that was, meeting Zvimbundas of Lithuania. He was an amicable fellow, don't you think? Very. A well-learned man, good with business. I think my trade will double in the coming years. I noticed that Lithuanian gold was worth a little less than our good Cornish gold though, but the amount they're paying, I can't complain. I do hope they have a safe journey home. So after a successful business trip, we lose 200 prestige because they find out that our gold is worth much less than it's supposed to. But that's a thing that happens, and it doesn't really matter because we got so many positive percentage numbers on trade and all that, and tax bonuses, that eventually we're going to get loads of money, as well as continuous events that will increase stuff. We also get our first daughter, Rose, or Rosa I think, that's what it was, and that is fantastic. So we're just going to continue for the following few, well, for you it's going to be a few minutes of this video. For me it was several years of gameplay, because it takes forever. Going to continue to improve each of the holdings that I personally hold, market villages to increase tax rate. It costs quite a bit, but in the long run it's such a massive bonus to income that it's so worth it. Also we get a bit of blackmailing that happens, and we decide at this point that we are strong enough to just go, oh hell nah, I've had enough of being pushed over by my vassals, so that revolt, you can have it, we're going to defeat you, you're not strong enough. As it turns out, I've been completely forgetting that as a tribal nation we can call our vassals to help us instead of getting vassal levies, which is very 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 helpful. It gets us a very large army. We're also going to create a massive garden for our dynasty. This is an event that I never have had before, and I was really surprised. I didn't know if it was something to do with the business focus. I didn't think it would be. But we basically create a maze and a garden for our dynasty, and I decided to create it myself, try and get themselves something called the gardener trait, which is a really good trait. It's not like amazing, but it's just positive stuff, so it's good. We actually create a whole maze by ourselves, which is fantastic. So we're going to spend quite a bit of money into that to try and get our prestige up and stuff like that. And it's great, and in the long term apparently it really helps. So there we go. So I'm just going to get myself monthly prestige bonuses, and other than that, great statues and that basically give wine for the rest of the dynasty, which is great. I mean, we're going to spend a lot of money into this, but we're making so much money, and Zvimbundas is pretty young, so I don't think he's about to just randomly drop down dead, which means that spending money in the early stages of his life probably isn't that much of a bad thing. because in the long run, especially all these market villages I keep building, in the long run is going to pay off, which is great. But our primary focus is get enough money to get the Kingdom of Lithuania. We're actually going to invade another one of our brothers to get even more of the country that we're missing, pretty much. Get a bit of Coronia, sorry. Which is fantastic. We're slowly getting that. We've imprisoned one of his family members, and we're slowly starting to get. And then that army randomly disappears, which is kind of very strange, because that means we automatically win this, pretty much. So yeah, after defeating the siege, we successfully get Coronia, and we get most of Lithuania back. We actually hold pretty much just about the same amount as our father, maybe a tiny bit left because of the Marienburg duchy, which is no longer part, but we can create the Kingdom of Lithuania. We're just missing a tiny bit of money, which isn't too bad. Our wife gets pregnant again. At this point, my daughter has died at age 1, something that I've forgot to mention, but something that's pretty heartbreaking for Zimbabwe. But here we go, enough money, we can finally create the Kingdom of Lithuania. We have gotten further than our father. The realm is now stable. If we die, our firstborn will get the kingdom, and our if we hold any extra duchies, they will go to our sons. But that is what Zvimbundas is going to try and avoid. What he's doing now is giving away all his extra duchies to try and make it a much more stable realm, a realm that is able to be controlled more efficiently, that gives much more levies and things like that. We've got to a point much further, much closer to our goal of eventually creating the Empire of Lithuania, or the Wendish Empire, basically. So our next goal will be to go down and take Poland. But first, I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I'll see you next time. Not only had Zvimbundas become king, a whole step further than his father, but he had created the most stable realm in the region. The Kingdom of Lithuania had been the dream of Cyrillus the Elder, and his son had continued this dream. Without any doubt, the Palemonatis Dynasty had put Lithuania back on the map, and the rest of the medieval world would feel the echoes of its creation for hundreds of years to come.